History of India.
The Indus Valley Civilization. Over 5,000 years ago, a group of nomads traveled from Sumeria, modern day Iran, and came to northwestern India near modern day Karachi. By the banks of the river Indus, they found a lush, fertile land.
We will never find a better spot than this. Let's settle here.
They said, and thus formed one of the oldest urban civilizations in the world.
The Indus Valley Civilization.
The nomads' decision was a good one because the area was abundant with water and fodder and fuel.
From
This
where did they get fuel?
From the wood of the trees. This area became Punjab as we know it today. In the next 1,000 years, the people spread out over 500,000 square miles.
The city is expanding like never before,
said the nomads. The settlers built the beautiful cities of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa.
We shall plan the city down to the last detail. It will be amazing when it's finished.
Mohenjo-daro was built around 2600 BC. It was beautifully planned. The city was divided into two parts, the citadel and the lower city. The citadel had a large residential building that could have housed around 5,000 people. The city also had a beautifully constructed structure known as the Great Bath. It was a public bathhouse probably used for a sacred bathing ritual. A big pool lined with bricks was in the center of a big courtyard. Steps led down to this pool and the bath area was lined with natural tar.
Natural ties?
Tar is what you put on the roads, the black substance. Natural tar is which comes naturally from the earth.
The tar will prevent it from leaking,
they said. Another building was found to have an underground furnace. This perhaps meant a heated swimming pool. The lower city was constructed in a grid pattern. Each rectangular block was surrounded by broad streets that ran parallel to one another around the buildings. The buildings were constructed from baked or wooden bricks.
These bricks will last a long time.
The workers made every brick exactly the same size. Every house had a well from which it drew water. The wastewater drained from the bathing room into covered drains along the streets. So the city remained dry and clean.
It is really clean here.
This was one of the most modern methods of sanitation ever seen, even with the population of about 30,000. Houses were safe from thieves, noise, and bad smells. Each house opened out into courtyards and small lanes, so it wasn't easy to access. Almost all the houses were of the same size. This implies that everyone was equal. What else was exactly the same size?
The houses.
The houses, and what else? Something that they built the houses with. Try to remember.
The furnace.
Dano, excellent Dano, you have hit the nail on the head. Say it again, Dano.
Bricks.
Yes, the brick.
Concrete.
Yes, the bricks were exactly the same size. Most of the city dwellers may have been traders or artisans.
I need a pot.
There seem to have been occupations like
pottery, metallurgy, dyeing,
This dyeing means adding color to fabric, to cloth,
Bead and shell making.
and so on,
I am almost done.
says one bead maker. Materials were brought in from faraway lands to make seals, beads, and other artifacts. Objects from here were found in Mesopotamia, Afghanistan, and other parts of India as well, showing the booming trade. Besides all this, the settlers were also involved in
gold and copper mining.
years later when the area.
Ask you that how did they make gold and copper mining?
That's an excellent question, David. Gold and copper mining is they had to dig the ground. They had to dig the ground, and there they would find the ore which would contain the gold and the copper. Years later.
And then not silver?
Yes, maybe they would find silver also. You have to read that book on minerals and rocks. Years later, when the area was excavated, archaeologists discovered that the Indus Valley settlers had built great granaries. Granaries are places where you store grains. Warehouses. Warehouses are where you store lots of goods. Platforms and protective walls. Can you name one or two protective walls that were built in the world? One can be seen from the moon.
The Wall of China.
Yes, and there's another wall, the Berlin Wall.
Oh, I never knew there was a Berlin Wall.
Yes. Agriculture was the main occupation as the area had abundant rivers flowing through, depositing rich soil.
The harvest has been good this year.
One of the most important buildings was the Great Granary.
Built it in such a way so that we can easily unload carts that deliver grains to the city.
Ducts were made inside the Great Granary to allow air to circulate. That's why the grains always stayed dry.
These grains stay fresh for so long.
Thanks to the ducts in the granary that allowed air to circulate and keep the grains dry. The city had no outer walls, but it had towers in the west and the south to defend its people. Excellent irrigation systems were in place. There were good flood control measures in place too.
We have to keep ourselves safe from the river during the monsoons.
But evidence shows that the city of Mohenjo-daro was destroyed
7 times. River has been cruel to us yet again.
and rebuilt each time. So evidence shows that the city of Mohenjo-daro was destroyed
7 times.
and rebuilt each time. Every time the river changed its course, the city was destroyed.
We shall rebuild it.
Otherwise, the people lived peaceful lives with no fear of invaders. But one day, the Aryans arrived from the northwest. 3. Surrender! 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 Shouted the Aryans, and the settlers quietly allowed the invaders to take over their cities.
We are no match for them. They are fighters.
The Aryans emptied the cities of people. They termed the Harappans Dasyus. You will form the lowest level of our society, the Aryans said to the Harappans, naming them Dasyus. Many Harappans fled south. In the 1920s, archaeologists rediscovered this historical site in present-day Pakistan.
This is one of the most advanced cultures I have ever seen.
Some of the most famous artifacts that were discovered were the humped Brahmani bull and the Pashupati.
Mama, I want to ask you something.
Mm-hmm.
Why they were all covered in mud?
Oh, that's because after many years, maybe there was some natural disaster where, like, suppose there was an earthquake, then the whole city gets covered. Okay? These are the few remnants of a beautiful era. An era that gave way to the
Vedic age.
From the History of India by the Wilco Picture Library. Dedicated to David Dissa, a boy who loves to learn about the history of his country and the world.